Hey lovies, Granny B here with another story. This time we're going to do a a Fancy Nancy, Explorer Extraordinaire. And here's Toby to say hi. So he gets started. Okay, he's going to go lie down. Not really sure what's going on. Bonjour everyone. Welcome to our club. Bree and I love to go exploring in the wild. We collect leaves, watch birds and butterflies, and inspect insects. If you're like us, then you can be an explorer extraordinaire too. Well, I'm an explorer extraordinaire. I don't know about you, and I know that my granddaughters are because we've gone exploring together. Bree and I are founding members of our club. That means we started it. So far, we are the only members. Freddie and my little sister really want to join, and we say maybe. First, they have to prove they are mature enough. Mature is a fancy name for acting grown-up. What does an explorer extraordinaire need? Well, essential, which means you absolutely have to have it. A long-sleeve shirt and pants so you can't get ticks on you. A notebook and pen for writing field notes. A baseball cap or sun hat. Not essential, but maybe recommended by Nancy. A camera, well, that would be a good thing. Binoculars. Lace gloves, that's funny. A magnifying glass, well, that could be useful. Glamorous sunglasses, also useful. Little maracas for when we feel like dancing. That's funny. Just because you're exploring doesn't mean you can't be fancy. And maybe you want to take your dogs along. Her dogs are Frenchie and Rusty. Ours are Pippi and Toby. I don't know if I'd take them along, though, because they might scare all the good things away. I almost forgot the most important thing. Look at that. Everybody needs a clubhouse. It's absolutely essential. Wow, that's a neat clubhouse. Do you have a clubhouse? You could make one too. Look at how she's made hers with old sheets and blankets. That's really neat. Wrapped it around a tree. I bet you could make a clubhouse in your backyard. Here's a map of our territory. That's a very cool map. Look how she's done it. She's drawn the houses just like floor plans, so just like boxes, so that works. And then she's filled in all the area around where they can go exploring. That looks very cool. Maybe you could draw a map of your own backyard and maybe your neighbors or places where you explore. That looks like a good idea. Rule number 2, nobody in the club thinks bugs are gross. That's just immature, which is fancy for babyish. First, we looked for insects. Insect is the real name for bugs. All insects have wings, antennae, and 6 legs. We see an anthill, so we sprinkle some sugar. Voila, here comes the ants. Ants love sweet things. Me too. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Rule number 3, no touching, just looking. Ants live underground in a group called a colony. Freddie wants to help the ants get back home, but that's against the rules. Look at the scribbling here. She says, my sister scribbled here. She thinks it's real writing. Well, that's okay. Your sister's trying. That's a good thing. The head ant is the queen, but she doesn't have a crown or anything fancy. She lays all the eggs. Interesting. Here's a joke for you. What do you call a 100-year-old ant? An antique. That's a fancy word for something really old. Some people say I'm an antique, but not that old. My sister is pointing at something. It is a spider in the web. There is a dead bug. My sister says yuck, but we explained that this is just part of nature. Spiders eat insects that are pests, like flies. You probably think spiders are insects, but guess what? They're not. They have 8 legs, not 6, and no wings or antennae. So they're not insects. That's interesting. Exploring the wild makes us very thirsty and hungry, so we need to stop and have refreshments. That's fancy for snacks. Now, Fancy Nancy always leaves lots of ideas for things for you to do. And here's a recipe for Nancy's extra fancy lemonade. And if you want to learn how to make it, you could pause here and write down the recipe and then maybe try to make it on your own. We do some research now. That means we read about what we've seen. Bree's book says we saw an orb spider. Here's a photo that Bree took. Whoa, that's an orb spider. Cool. There are a lot of different cool spiders out there if you want to do some research of your own. Rule number 4, crying is not allowed unless there's a very good reason. My sister and Freddie fight over the last cookie. We tell them if they want to go with us to Mrs. Devine's garden, they'd better stop. Mrs. Devine's flower garden is full of butterflies. Bree and I adore butterflies. There's a monarch butterfly, and in the middle there's a giant swallowtail, and over here is a red admiral. Admiral, yes. I took these pictures. Rule number 5, we never catch butterflies because they are fragile. That's a fancy way of saying they get hurt easily. Many people don't think butterflies are insects because they are so pretty. But guess what? They are insects. All butterflies start from an egg that turns into a caterpillar. The caterpillar spins a cocoon around itself. The scientific name is chrysalis. I think that word is so beautiful and fancy. And when the chrysalis breaks open, voila, there's a butterfly. I will probably be a lepidopterist when I grow up. That's a fancy for a scientist who studies butterflies. Well, that would be interesting. Lookalikes. Is it a butterfly or is it a moth? When butterflies land on something, their wings stay up. You see butterflies during the day. They have colorful wings. When a moth lands, it stays flat. You see moths much more at night. They like to fly near lights. Yes, they do. A lot of moths have plain brown wings, but some moths are very colorful. And that's true. I've seen some colorful ones. Butterfly hunting ensemble. I went to a butterfly farm once with my grandparents. Have you been to a butterfly farm? It's pretty interesting. If you go to one, here's what you should wear. A hat sprayed with perfume to attract butterflies because they'll land on you. Bright, colorful clothes so the butterflies think you're a giant flower. Have you ever had a butterfly land on you? They're really light, aren't they? You can hardly feel them. They might even tickle a little bit. Part of Mrs. Devine's garden is for wildflowers. Wildflowers grow all by themselves without any help from people. You don't have to buy seeds or anything. Lots of wildflowers have such fancy names. There's a forget-me-not. See what we have here. Queen Anne's lace. I like the Queen Anne's lace. I used to think fairies lived there. A lady slipper and a foxglove. Oh, look at that garden. That looks so cool. That would be fun to paint. Oh, look. What Freddie and my sister did. They picked some flowers without asking. That is strictly against club rules. Mrs. Devine is not mad, but we are. Neither of them can be in the club. They are not mature enough. Lunchtime. My mom takes my sister and Freddie home. We go to Bree's house, and after lunch we will check the bird feeders in her backyard. Maybe some birds are having their lunch. There's a couple of ways that you can make bird feeders. Again, you can pause this and you can write down these ideas, and that might be something you want to do later. Bree may be an ornithologist when she grows up. That's a scientist who studies birds. What makes birds special? Birds are the only animals with feathers. The fancy word for feather is a plume. They also have light, hollow bones. One of the reasons we can't fly is because our bones are too heavy. And we don't have wings. Today, we see a robin and lots of sparrows. There's this picture of a sparrow. Can you see the picture of the sparrow and the robin? And what's that other bird? Oh, that's a pigeon. Why do hummingbirds hum? Because they don't know the words. Ha ha. It starts to drizzle, so we go back to our clubhouse and we pretend not to see Freddie and my sister. We read about hummingbirds and learn many facts that are fascinating. That's even fancier than interesting. Hummingbird, the official bird of our club. They love red flowers. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to have to plant some red flowers because I love hummingbirds. So far, we have only seen hummingbirds at the zoo, but they are still our favorite birds. Why? They are so petite. That's a French word for little. And their wings are iridescent. That's a fancy word for shiny. How petite is a hummingbird? Without feathers, most of them are the size of a bumblebee. They can take a bath in a leaf. Oh, they are tiny. A nest is the size of a walnut shell, and their eggs are smaller than jelly beans. Well, no wonder I've never seen one. They flap their wings up to 200 times a second. They don't hum. A humming sound comes from their wings beating so fast. Well, isn't that interesting? Rule number 6. We don't pull leaves off trees. Trees need them to make food. The rain seems to be stopping, but we wear our raincoats anyway because we look so chic. That's a French word for fancy and fashionable. Goody, the storm last night has knocked off leaves for us to collect. Oh, I see. They don't pull them off trees, but they can collect them from the ground. Good idea. I'm practically a leaf expert. Trees whose leaves fall off are called deciduous. That's a fancy word almost as much as chrysalis. See the pages on butterflies. She's named them all. There's elm at the top, and there's a honey locust, and down here, do we know this one? If you're Canadian, you should know this one. It's a maple leaf. All the leaves here come from trees in our backyards. Ginkgo leaves look like fans. Mrs. Devine makes tea from the fruit. There's a ginkgo leaf. Sometimes it's fun to collect leaves and paste them on a page. Trees with leaves that don't fall off are called evergreens. Evergreen, get it? The leaves look like needles. Christmas trees are evergreens. Don't you love their wonderful aroma? That's fancy for smell. Evergreens have pine cones. Once I painted a big gold one and glued on glitter. Gorgeous. There's an idea for a lavish leaf crown. Oh, that would be cool. A self-portrait. That's a picture of me, drawn by me. Bree and I hear Freddie and my sister calling us. They found something exciting. Wow, they found a baby robin. It's fallen from its nest. Cool. We can see the nest. The mother robin must be frantic. That's fancy for very, very worried. We call my mom and she knows just what to do. She puts the baby back in the nest. Now it is safe. My mother explains that some animals won't care for their babies after a person has touched them, but birds aren't like that. Hooray for Mom! There she is, putting the baby back. My sister and Freddie jump up and down. Please, please, can we join the club now? Even though they broke some club rules, they did find the baby robin, which is the most exciting thing we observed. So Bree and I take a vote. It's unanimous. We both vote yes. We made official cards for the new members, just like us. They are explorers extraordinaire. You know, it could be fun to make your own Explorer Extraordinaire journal about the things that you see around your neighborhood, because I bet you're seeing some fun things, especially now at this time of the year. Anyway, that's all for today, my loves. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon. Love you.